Welcome to 365 Brothers, the podcast. Thank you for listening. I'm your host, Robin Shine, and get ready for another episode where I introduce you to another amazing, interesting, intriguing, and inspiring African-American man from the United States. They come from a variety of professions, various parts of this nation, and all of them bring their wisdom. So, chill out, relax, and listen in. Make sure you follow us. We're on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, you can go to 365brothers.com/Linktree, Linktree, 365 Brothers.com/Linktree. You'll find links to all things 365 Brothers, as well as links to anything Robin Shine. Again, thank you, and let's listen in. Relax and listen in. Make sure you follow us. We're on Instagram at 365 Brothers. Also, you can go to 365brothers.com/Linktree, Linktree, 365 Brothers.com/Linktree. You'll find links to all things 365 Brothers, as well as links to anything Robin Shine. Again, thank you, and let's listen in. Our guest today currently serves as a program coordinator for the Call Me Mr. program, which is why I'm very excited to have him. The mission of the program is to increase the number of African-American men working and serving as educators in our schools. He was born and raised in Greenville, South Carolina, receiving his bachelor's degree from Claflin University in Orangeburg, South Carolina, and his master's in Administration and Supervision from Clemson University. Those of you who happen to catch this, any parts I post online on YouTube, you'll see he's got the Clemson in the background, so we know he is a proud alumni. His teaching career began at Westcliff Elementary in Greenville, and he's also served as both an elementary and a middle school assistant principal. He also was founding principal of an early college middle school in his hometown, and as an assistant professor of education at Anderson University, which is a faith-based institution. I'm just excited. He's been on all kinds of news, sharing about that commitment to increase the number of African-American men who are in our schools. Our guest today is Mark Joseph. Welcome, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So before we go into the questions, is there anything you'd like to share with the listeners to help them get to know you better?
I'm just looking forward to the exchange and the conversation between you and I. I think it's just a wonderful opportunity, the work you're doing and how you are really emphasizing and sharing the stories of many brothers across the country and the world. And so just looking forward to our exchange today.
Perfect. Me too. Let's go ahead and jump in. What is a favorite song or movie, either now or all time?
All of my life, I have been a staunch fan of the Rocky Balboa series.
Really?
Yes. And I would probably say the earlier series more so than the latter. But I fell in love with Rocky Balboa. The theme music, him running through the streets of Philadelphia and being the underdog. I think it was just something that resonated to my spirits, to my heart, in terms of people around you not believing in you and counting you out. And you know you have a fighter inside of you, and that's willing to fight, that's willing to prove people wrong and work against the odds. When he fought Apollo Creed twice and how they ultimately became friends, how he fought the Russian and Mr. T. I can't applaud the acting per se, but again, the theme and the storyline of the story just truly resonates with probably who I am as an individual.
Say more about that part.
One of the early memories that I have hanging around with my older cousins, and I'm just a young kid and looking up to them. They love sports, especially basketball, and I just wanted the opportunity to go with them and play basketball. And they never allowed me to play with them. And I used to feel some kind of way. I used to become irritated because I felt like they didn't believe in my skills. They didn't believe in me. That was around the same time when the Rocky Balboa series was coming out. No one envisioned Rocky being the champion. And because of the fight, because of what he possessed within himself, really propelled him to be the champion that he felt like he could be. And I think that I've gained this strength and this inward belief that as long as I continue to fight, and when I say the naysayers, I don't always mean the people from an external standpoint. I even mean the voices that try to tell you, who do you think you are? You can't do this. But the internal voices that you may hear that's trying to keep me down. And so being able to fight through the limitations that I have believed because of societal norms and things of that nature. But it's like realizing and recognizing that there's a champion inside that's waiting to be crowned, that's waiting for you to show up to this fight and keep fighting.
You know, I'm very much about being aware of the multiple voices that are in our heads and to hear them. I walk half marathons. I am all about integrity and I will not cheat. But I want you to know that I do have a voice that will say to me, you know, you could just cut right here. Ain't nobody around you a walker. Everybody go.
Right.
It won't feel the same if I do that. So, you know, so there's an integrity there. But that voice, it always shocks me.
Yes.
I can't believe that I have a voice that would say cheat when that goes against who I am, you know?
Right.
What you're talking about, the voice that says you can't. Oh my gosh. What I also love is the visualizing of Rocky. And like, I can see Creed. As soon as you said Rocky, I didn't even really think of Apollo. I always think of the Russian. That's the one I'm like, yeah, take him out. Yeah.
And I think even to that point when he's fighting the Russian and at the very end, he knocks the Russian down and then they change scenes to his son. His son yells, "That's my dad." That's the statement that I want my son to have about me. That's my dad. That's why I said that there are so many subplots and storylines within that movie that resonates with me.
But then here's the other thing I just have to ask. I heard that they didn't want you to go. So I just need to know at what age you finally dunked on them. And they were like, oh, snap.
Well, that dunking thing was a little tricky because I'm vertically challenged. So it took me some time. But when I got to middle school, all bets were off.
Okay.
All bets were off.
Speaking a little bit more about childhood, tell us what's one of your favorite moments from childhood?
Again, going back to one of my cousins, I looked up to him just like he was a god, just because how he treated me. His name was Jeffrey. He loved me. He always encouraged me, always believed in me. And it was like he was always there for me. And one particular weekend, my aunt, his mother, we drove to Columbia, South Carolina, where he was in graduate school at the time. He was studying medicine, working hard, just a brilliant guy, just an awesome person inside and out. And we spent the weekend with him. I mean, I just had the time of my life. And we didn't do anything that you would think that was so magical or just so outstanding. But the time we spent from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, I mean, it was just remarkable. Throwing the football, talking about college, because he was the one who really got me thinking about going to college. He was the one that really helped me to see and understand college and what college life was about. And I'll never forget the Sunday we're leaving, walking out of his apartment, and, you know, we're waving goodbye, and we get home, and first thing that morning, we get the news, he passed away. And, oh, man. Yeah. He passed away. He had sickle cell anemia and just ongoing battle fighting sickle cell anemia. But I promise you that weekend, when I take the time to reflect on it, was just life-changing for me. spending time with him. And again, this guy was my role model. He was literally my everything. He was the guy in my eyes I would think he could do no wrong. And he was just that kind of guy. I just reflect upon that. And you don't know sometimes when it's people's last day on this earth. And it's really challenged me to take time with people. He took time. Clearly, he had his studies. He's studying medicine. He's involved in all these other things, organizations on campus, but he would always take time with me just to check to see how I'm doing and encourage me. And I think that was one of the things that really helped me to understand my role and responsibility in being an educator. I know there are standards to be taught. I know there's a pacing guide. I know there are things to be done and things to be handled. But I'm also willing to slow down and take the time and embrace the students that I had the opportunity to come in contact with. He was so important to my life that we even named my son after him.
And I do understand that this was a while ago. And I'm still going to say I'm sorry for your loss, because I get how meaningful he was in your life. You know, the impression I have is that weekend that you guys were together, he wasn't exhibiting, in other words, he wasn't sickly at that time.
Not at all.
So here he is pouring into you, right? Because I do believe that we have agreements with people, soul to soul. And I feel like his was to pour into you. And for me, it's actually heartwarming in a way that his last days were spent having that opportunity to fulfill that with you. It also underscores for me your participation in Call Me Mr. My takeaway is that you want as many other young Black men, like you were a young Black man at that time, to have the opportunity to have a Black man pour into them and encourage them into education. Because the more Black men that are educators, the more Jeffreys there are out in the world doing that. Without question.
Without question. I will never forget the day we packed up the station wagon, and I'm as a little kid in the back of the station wagon, and we're driving to drop him off as a college freshman. I'll never forget that. That opened up a new world and a reality that I had never imagined. It wasn't even on my radar.
It points to the importance of exposure. Having young people visit a college campus. Like if you live near a college, even if you have, not a lot that you can share around your own college experience, just taking a kid to a college campus and letting them walk around and see that environment and soak that up. Yeah.
So what's interesting about the statement you just made, in the bio you read, I became the principal of an early college middle school. The group of students, they were typically a couple of grade levels behind. And one of the aspects of the early college was to get them connected to our local colleges and universities, but get them on campus. And I'll never forget the expressions on those students' faces when we step foot on certain campuses in our local area. There's one particular university. Many of these students live 5 minutes from this institution and had never set foot on this particular campus. Never. And to get them an opportunity to walk through the campus, sit in some classrooms, go to the cafeteria, talk with students, talk with professors. Again, it was one of those life-changing situations and moments. And so when I talk about becoming an educator, that's really what my life has been about.
You know what's funny about what you just said is you brought up a memory for me just now that I haven't thought about at least in a decade, and maybe 2 or 3. I just remember now that when I was a kid, I must have been about 12 or 13, I got into a summer program. And I don't know if it was 3 weeks or 2 or 6, you can't tell when you're a kid, but I know it was multiple weeks and it took place at Cal State. I remember taking the escalator down. It was Cal State Long Beach, and this huge, beautiful campus. And it has never occurred to me what difference that might have made in me seeing myself in college, because I will tell you that going to college was a done deal. By the time I got to high school, it was just no big. But it makes me wonder what role that played, and I'm clear it played a role.
Indeed.
So, yeah,
Indeed.
thank you. I'm kind of like, oh man. And Louie, I had a crush on Louie. Hi, Louie. Anyway, he didn't pay attention to me, so I don't even know why I said hi. Take that back. But anyway, thank you for that. That's awesome. Let's talk about accomplishments. And so I asked this question in two parts. The first part is the accomplishment that means the most to you, Mark, and then the accomplishment of the many you have, which is the one that when other people hear it, it tends to get the oh or wow. So let's start with the first. Which accomplishment is the one that means the most to you?
I'll probably say the one that means the most to me is probably when I got home and I really began to take my relationship, my walk with God seriously. I really began to embrace having a true understanding of who God is for myself. I would hear my mother, my father talk about it. It was almost like that was their God. That was what he meant to them and for them. But I was going through life just trying to find my way, trying to figure out what's the next move for me. Where do I go in life? What do I do? And I'm just trying to find myself. Things that I thought I wanted in life. I mean, it was like I was going into a brick wall, just crashing. Ideas and dreams that I had, they were not working out. I'll never forget the day. I just sat home and I'm just sitting on the floor. And I'm just talking and I said, like, God, I know you're real. But I just need you to help me to understand you're real to me. After that, opened up my Bible and I don't know what I was reading, but it was something in Psalm. That was the day when I can honestly say my whole life, the trajectory of my life changed forever. It's given my life direction. It's given my life the confidence that I was lacking before. It's just giving me everything that I was missing. And I think the important piece, it helped me to really clarify and understand that I was created for a purpose.
I hear that you can actually pinpoint the day you entered into a personal relationship with God.
Indeed, very much so. That was when my life changed, truly changed. And from a professional standpoint, was having the opportunity to meet Oprah Winfrey. As a freshman at Claflin University, Claflin is the oldest HBCU in the state of South Carolina. I made the decision to attend Claflin University because of the Call Me Mr. program. And what many people don't know about the Call Me Mr. program is that we recruit in groups, what we call cohorts. And so you get to experience life and the journey with a group of individuals that's trying to accomplish the same things. And so we had a group of young Black men. And when we got the news that we were going to be on Oprah Winfrey show and that she was going to give our program a donation and support the program, I mean, I'm thrilled and overjoyed. It was just mind blowing. I'm in the green room taking napkins and stuffing it in my jacket, taking pens from the hotel. And I mean, I'm just like, man, I can't believe I get to meet Oprah Winfrey. And we walked out. I'm just starstruck. I'm speechless. It was just mind blowing. I couldn't believe it. But I think the beautiful aspect of it, I'm with my brothers that was in the Call Me Mr. program. And that's something that we hold on to. I mean, we've held on to since it aired in April of 2001. That's I would consider my professional claim to fame. Yeah, that's the one that gets the most like, oh, really?
I know.
You met Oprah?
Even though you had mentioned it before, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. And they're like, oh, you met Oprah? And then when I show them the actual photo and they're like, oh, you really met Oprah? The funny thing about after the show, we were getting prepped to have lunch with her, and they wanted to do a photo opportunity. And I'm standing next to her and I'm not moving. And I'm not letting anybody slide in between us. And I'm happy with the biggest smile on my face. And a gentleman in our program, Haywood John, I mean, is my best friend. I was the best man in his wedding, and we're super close. And somehow he came behind me and slid in between Oprah and I. And that's when they said, okay, nobody move. Let's take the picture. So when everyone sees the picture, he's the one that's beside Oprah. But he and I know that the only reason why he's beside Oprah is because he came behind me and moved me out the way. And so that's the situation.
I can hear that whenever y'all get together, I know this comes up.
It comes up. It comes up. Indeed, it comes up. It comes up. And he's unapologetic about it. He would tell everyone, oh, I did it on purpose. I moved him out the way. And, we laugh and joke.
He knew you. He knew you were like,
yes.
No, I'm right here. No, yes. I'm right here. He saw your move and he was like, you ain't gonna see me coming from behind.
He's not gonna see me coming. Yeah.
I love stories like that. They crack me up. The people who know you and like,
I know.
Let's talk about words. What's the favorite quote, saying, metaphor, or book, and why?
I would go with the quote, I think is by Ralph Waldo Emerson. And he talks about what lies behind us and what lies ahead of us are tiny matters compared to what lies within us. And it resonates with me because I think so often, we can be glued to the past or become so enamored or so focused on the future and trying to figure out what's ahead. And we don't take the opportunity to be present and to have a greater appreciation for now, for today. And not just that, we've also been so trained to be so focused on external situations. We overlook the God-given power and gifts and talent that he's placed within us. And so it served as a reminder to me. The past is the past. I can reflect on it. I can learn from it. The future hasn't taken place yet, but what's taking place now, what I'm doing now matters. What I'm doing now can create my future. And also being mindful of what I bring to the table today. What I can contribute to the spaces I find myself in today.
As you say that, I think about the accomplishment you mentioned and knowing that your life has a purpose. And they connect so clearly for me with what you just said, because what I hear you saying about when you show up in a room is, that you have a unique skill set, a divine purpose. And so your opportunity in every moment is to contribute what that gift is.
Yes.
At that moment.
Yeah. Because I didn't always feel that way. I didn't always go through life having that sense of confidence and not feeling like I need to hit a home run or I have to do something extravagant every single time I step into a particular place. No, that's not what I need to do. Let me observe, let me slow down, let me take some time and figure what's needed in this particular space. And so it's not always about hitting the home run. It's always about assessing the situation you're in and finding where you need to contribute.
What's funny is I did a whole lot of personal development work to get to that. But I know what you're saying. And I also get that sometimes what there is to do is to empower someone else, yes. And to actually step back and knowing, and this hurts so much. Sometimes you hear an idea and it ain't good, but it needs to be in the space and be heard so that what's next can develop. And it's not about you solving it. You know what I mean? Like that's a big deal to learn for me. It's not always about showing up and showing out. Sometimes it's about showing up and empowering and causing and being. And you're really pointing to being present.
Yes.
Like when you are present, you can feel what's needed. Sometimes what's needed is you to show up and give that idea or push through something, but sometimes it ain't. And so I felt compelled to point out the importance of what you're saying.
Yes. One of the tenets that we have in our Call Me Mr. program is we talk a lot about servant leadership. We talk about as educators, the greatest way to be that leader, to demonstrate your leadership, is also having the willingness to serve. And as you talked about, can you learn how to play the back and allow others to shine and move forward? And can you be okay with that? And so those are some of the experiences that even as a program we go through to help our pre-service educators. When you can celebrate others or uplift others, empower others, as you're doing that to them, you're doing it unto yourself as well.
True. Let's talk about some experiences, not that we haven't been, but what is a conversation, moment, or event that changed the trajectory of your life or had a significant impact on your life?
There have been so many great people that I've had the pleasure of meeting and having relationships with that have really impacted my life. But one that I wanted to bring to mind is a lady named Frances York. Frances York was my professor, my elementary language arts methods professor at Claflin. And when I tell you, this lady was a straight shooter. She told it like it was, and she didn't hold back, but so caring, so supportive. She was like a mother to me while I was off in college, someone I could count on and depend on. And I was at the tail end of my experience. I was a senior going through my student teacher experience. And the beautiful thing about it, I walked into my classroom and it was a Black male teacher. And I'm thinking, oh, yes, I've hit the jackpot. I couldn't have scripted this any better. And my first few weeks with this particular teacher was hell. It had me questioning everything. And it was almost to the point to where I was willing to sit out the remaining few weeks of the semester to return for the following semester. Yeah. It was just that hard. I couldn't understand. And I was telling Ms. York, I'm doing everything that I know to do. I'm doing everything he's telling me to do. I don't understand why he's making this so difficult. I don't understand why I felt like he was mistreating me. I couldn't make sense of it. And she sat me down and she said to me, you need to snap out of your fairy tale world. Life doesn't work like this. She said, life is just not about you. Everything is not about you. You need to pull up your big boy pants and go to that school and serve those kids. She said, this experience is about those kids. And she left me there and I'm just blinking and I'm just staring at her like, do you not know I was on Oprah a couple of years ago? Did you not understand that? But, you know, Ms. York was the kind of person, she didn't care. She didn't care what show, what you've accomplished. She didn't care. Ms. York wanted everyone to focus and remember what you're about to participate in is about serving those young people. It's not about you and your ego or how you feel or what you think should happen. It's about you figuring out what's the best way you can serve those kids. And I'm just looking at her. And then right after she lays into me, she says, okay, let's go get something to eat. And we go and we go to eat. And I'm still quiet because I don't know what to say. I'm mad. And she knows I'm mad. And she says, look, I know you're mad at me. She said, but you'll get over it. She said, I know you'll get over it. She said, but if this journey you're on is not about you. That's that memorable person and moment that has changed my educational journey and really my career.
I love it. I love her. I love that. What is a moment that either highlights or in some way signifies your experience as a Black man in the United States?
Wow. What comes to mind is 2004, when I returned back to my hometown of Greenville, and I had just graduated, and I'm a fourth grade teacher. got my own classroom. I felt like, this is it. And when I walked into the building, this is before the academic year had started. And that's when I ultimately realized I'm the only male in this building, the only male in this building. Then I also realized I'm the only Black person in this building. And I clearly felt, as Tupac would say, all eyes on me. Like literally every step I would take, every move I make, I felt like I was being watched. I felt like everyone was trying to measure me to figure out if I would measure up, to being an educator, if I would become a good educator. I always felt like I was under the gun, even to the point to where when the school year started and we was just in the car line and parents would drive by to pick up their children, eyes would be on me. And I don't mean just from other teachers, I mean from parents, and I mean from other kids who were in the building. And it was almost as if, who is that guy? Who is he? And why is he here? And I was under that spotlight. I was under the microscope. And one of the things that really helped me during that time period was having gone through the Call Me Mr. program and the experiences with the other brothers who've gone through the program. We had the luxury to pick up the phone and talk to each other at the end of the school day. What's going on in your school? And the truth of the matter is many of them were in the same situation that I was facing. They were if not the only Black person, they clearly were the only males in their school building. And so those similarities we were able to talk through, and we were able to, again, just to reaffirm each other being in those similar spaces. But we also was able to realize we were prepared for this. And we had gone through a variety of experiences that prepared us to stand confidently and to stand on our own 2 feet. And we knew about the importance of building relationships because we talked about it religiously. We understood the importance of building relationships with our students, how to become that effective educator. So while I felt like all those eyes were on me, all this attention was on me, almost as if I was like an alien in this particular space, I felt like I was somebody different. They looked at me different. They treated me differently. But the thing that remained the same for me was when I was able to embrace my preparation, the experiences that I had gone through, and having the support of the guys that had gone through the Call Me Mr. program with me, having that support system in place. As time moved on, I don't think it's changed because people were still looking at me. After year 1, year 2, then we had the benefit of having a African-American male that was a custodian. We had a veteran, wonderful African-American woman who was a 3rd grade teacher. So I wasn't by myself. But again, we still felt like under the microscope. But it didn't bother me as I continued to move forward as it did when I first started, because I embraced my journey, my assignment, and I didn't allow the external situations to move me to the left or to the right being in this space. But things begin to bear out because now being in that school space, kids walking up to me in the hallways that I didn't know their name. They knew my name, but they wanted a high five. Kids who had fathers, had fathers in their lives. Well, there was one particular situation, Mr. Walker. He pulled around to pick up his daughter at the end of the day. And he said, Mr. Joseph, and he's pointing at me. He said, I need to talk to you. And I'm thinking, oh God, what did I do? and I'm trying to replay in my own mind. Did I do something wrong? Something I didn't know about? And he walks up to me and he whispers to me, he says, I'm tired of my daughter bringing up your name at the dinner table every single night. You make me sick. And he laughed and he walked away. But again, my presence, because I embraced my assignment and my purpose, began to change the dynamic of me being under the microscope. My purpose and my presence being there, it began to impact if you want to call it, the soil in that particular environment, the culture and climate in that particular school?
You're saying something that's so important. I don't recall having a Black male teacher in high school. I can't say with certainty that there was not one, but I have not a single recollection of one. And even in middle school, there were a Black female teacher and a Black female administrator. And they, especially the administrator, Dr. Benny Reams, she has significant impact on me, significant. But when you mentioned the eyes that are on you and the people who are looking at you, I don't think people realize that even today, schools are primarily white female.
Yes.
I just happen to be, I don't even always read our little National Educators Association magazine, a magazine for teachers, for educators. But, half the people, not half, like more than half, 3/4 of the stories that are about teachers, they're white females. Now, they do a good job trying to, definitely trying to show the diversity. But most often when there is diversity, it's still women.
Right.
And what is the experience of what education is if you go through school and you don't see Black men and you're a young Black man? School is this other place. It's this place where those people, you know what I'm saying? And as a kid, you may not even register that you don't see yourself. I don't think kids are going around very often going, I don't see any Black men here, because it's so natural to only expect white women.
Correct.
Or women. And this is why I was so excited to have you share the Call Me Mr. program. And I know not everyone can go and be a part of that program, but just to know that that exists, it's such a big deal. And I'm going to take 20 seconds just to say, I know my audience has a significant percentage that are African-American men. I'm not saying you should change careers or anything, but I'm just saying, if you know people who are thinking about it, like, please encourage more African-American men to go into education, especially in the sciences. It's great to be an engineer, and if that's your calling, do it. But we really desperately need African-Americans and African-American men in our schools. Like, seriously, we really need you. Go ahead.
You're spot on. I had an opportunity to talk to a group of middle school and high school young men recently, and just talking to them about what it means to be an educator and how it's important that we even change what it means to be an educator for this day and time, and how they are needed to really change how we view education and how we view what it means to be an educator, and also what it means to change that experience.
Yes.
And then I finally asked them, have you ever pictured yourself as an educator? And towards the end, there were kids who walked up to me and said, no one has ever asked me about being a teacher. No one had, and they said, no one has talked to me about education in that kind of way. And in my mind, I'm replaying it in my head, and I'm thinking, you got to be kidding me. Like, these kids have at least 8, 9, 10 years of day in and day out of at least 180 days. And not one individual has even brought up what it means or how it feels to be in this particular profession. And so in our program, we talk a lot about what it means to be an ambassador. What it means to not only represent yourself, your family, your community, but also what it means to represent the profession and the calling that you're in. We're telling young men and we're telling Black males, we're not asking you to be the kind of educators that you had.
No.
We need you to be better.
Look, let me tell you something. I'm on my way out. My generation, we are done. Like, I'm technically Generation X, but I am so close to the boomers. I know I am done. Like, what's needed in the classroom, I am like just trying very hard to, every year is a new adjustment, because it messes with my old school mentality. It just, it's like, it is a constant changing of what it is to be an educator. It is not what your mama's idea of an educator was. It is not what your idea of an educator was if you are over 40.
Right.
This new generation has to be something different because the students are different. And we need young people to come into education and take our place, because I'm going to tell you right now, so we need to go. Like, we need to move over and let y'all come in, because it's just different. And then the other thing I want to do is tell on my own self, because when I think about the number of students that I have talked to and shared being an educator, it's not, I don't even promote being an educator. I'm telling people, do this. And I'll say, and if you love kids, but I don't, it's not like I'm going, hey, like recruiting. And for sure, I am more likely to have that conversation with a female student than I am with a male student, regardless of race. You know what I'm saying?
Oh,
and
I understand.
It's kind of mind-blowing. And that's why conversations like the one we're having are so important for people to hear, because we talk about bias and this and that. And there's all the common biases we talk about. But I know that even most educators have a bias about who should be an educator.
Yes.
It's just, here's what they look like. Here's what they sound like. And here's how they stand.
Right.
And they don't wear dreads all like this. They don't look hip, and they don't have tattoos. They don't have, there's like a whole world of who an educator is to the outgoing generation of educators. Yeah.
You are absolutely correct. One of the things that we talk to a lot of school counselors about, because they are always asking, where do I find these Black men? Mm-hmm. And we tell them they are sitting in your classrooms right now.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're in your schools.
Right.
You don't have to look far. Go to all of your schools, all of them, and they are sitting in your classrooms.
You know what I'm going to make sure I do? I'm going to make sure that once, because I have semester-long classes rather than year-long, once a semester, I'm going to make sure I talk about what I love about being an educator, because kids will ask me, and I'm be honest with you, sometimes I'm a little, not apologetic, but, because they'll say, and you have a lot of day, why are you an educator? And I always say, summers. Mm-hmm. But I don't really go into detail about, the joy that it is.
Yes.
And all of that. So anyway, see, you've just changed my kids' world already. Make the difference. So I also always ask brothers about their experiences with law enforcement, which I know is kind of a turn the corner, left turn. But what experiences have you had that you would share in your interactions with law enforcement?
I remember my initial encounter with law enforcement. When I was a kid, I wanted to be a police officer, or at least that's what I would say. But as I got older, my first encounter, I was driving with a friend of mine, and we was just coming from a local store or something. And I had my driver's permit, and my friend had his license. And I knew I was still able to drive up into a particular time of the day, still following the rules that I was provided by the state, according to the law. And we ran into a traffic stop. And so clearly they're pulling our license, and the police officer, he's asking me question after question: where you live, where you're going, what are you doing? And I mean, who is this guy in the passenger side? What are y'all going to do? I mean, he's just asking all kinds of questions. And actually, I ended up getting a ticket for unlawful driving or something to that degree. And I couldn't understand, because even on my license, it stated that I could drive up into a particular time frame. And so ultimately, he even made the statement, you can fight it in court, or whatever the case may be. So we get to court. I ended up going to court. I went to court with my dad, and I will never forget, the police officer said, the judge asked the police officer, was he driving alone? And the police officer said, yes, he was driving alone. He had no one in the car with him. And I'm just floored. I mean, and I didn't know what to say. And I think, my father made some remarks again. And thankfully, I also had the friend of mine. He was with me as well. And
Yeah.
so he backed me up in terms of that particular statement. But I was just so speechless. I couldn't fathom in my head that that would actually take place in a court of law. I mean, I couldn't believe it, especially at that time. And the judge ultimately threw out the ticket and, all is well. But that was my initial encounter with the police officer.
What I'm left with is the confidence that the officer had that he could lie in court. It's bad enough that you shouldn't even get the ticket in the first place, right? No, it's bad enough that you're getting jammed up just for driving. That's the first part. Then to get a ticket falsely, wrongly, inaccurately. But yeah, the audacity.
Audacity, yes. The audacity.
But what I hear is that wasn't the first time. You know what I'm saying? It's like, so this is a pattern. And I know you're ready to say something, but I have to say, one of the things that shocked me as a high school teacher, and I've shared this before, but I'm just going to say this one real quick. I remember my first year at my current school, and I've been there 24 years, I overheard two young Latino men talking, and they were talking about having to go to court for a ticket. The ticket they got was for blocking the sidewalk. And the reason they were having a heated conversation about the Bible, one of them was on his lawn, the other was on the sidewalk, and an older woman did have to walk around it. That they agree on all the facts. But the officer actually gave them a ticket for blocking the sidewalk while having a conversation. And I couldn't believe it. And so when you say that you were driving, I guess the reason I wanted to share that story is because I know there might be people who hear, I'm sure that's a one-off. And it's like, no. That officer was so certain. And what they don't get is that if you didn't have a father who could go there with you,
correct.
If your friend didn't take the time to be there with you,
correct,
this would have stood. And let's say, I did hear that you came from a good family but imagine if you're a young person who does not, their parents don't have the finances for that. That ticket is life altering.
Right.
For no reason. So anyway, I don't know if you could tell, but it bothers me. Yeah. I don't know if that came across.
Yeah. And indeed, and I mean, and even when I unpack the situation, even my father, and you talk about, working, my dad took the day off to go to court with me. To your point, I didn't even think of process that even at the time. And when you said that, and I'm thinking, man, I mean, what if he didn't have the kind of job that wouldn't have allowed him to take that time off? And he just couldn't take that time off.
Yes.
Again, I'm in a situation that I don't know what to do. And so, again, I'm just thankful, but I will never forget the look that officer had on his face when he said I was alone. It's just like, you see, you have flashbacks and you see it in movies.
Yeah.
But that's something that I always remember. I see his face because I was so dismayed when he said that I was driving alone. And I'm thinking, this can't be real. And it was actually real life that was in that courtroom that particular day. And so that was my initial, I would call my initial encounter with police. I will also say, I think being in education in that elementary school, I had the benefit of having some students in my classroom, parents who were police officers. Mm-hmm. That helped me, I would honestly say. And when I say that helped me, because it challenged me to learn how to develop a relationship with them, not just as a parent of a student in my class, but also as a role that they play as a community police officer. Mm-hmm. I wanted a better understanding of, your reality and your world. And so I would invite them into the classroom. Talk to us about this. I need you to talk to my students about what's taking place. And they graciously accepted because of the relationship that we've developed and that we had. But it also helped me to see them in a different way. And it also helped me to understand humanity. because I think we all come from different walks of life and different backgrounds, and you got to be able to deal with humanity, no matter who they are and what situation they come out of. You got to be able to see people as people. And that helped me kind of through that particular process, having a relationship with them during that particular time period.
I think my long-term listeners already know this if you've been listening to multiple episodes, but I do want to add, this is not about vilifying police because I am grateful for officers. When I'm walking my dog or I'm, whatever I'm doing, like I do half marathons and they are there, they're keeping cars. And I am happy to say thank you and I am appreciative. But it's the consistency of a bias that's in the system that I hate, not officers, but bias.
Yes. And I appreciate the questioning because as I'm reliving that whole scenario, I mean, things could have turned out differently for me. I mean, it really could, simply because this individual exercised a sense of power he felt like he had. Things could have turned out differently, clearly differently for me.
Yeah.
So I appreciate I do. I really appreciate the question and you bring a light to that.
Yeah, thank you. And I just want to take a moment to say I did a standalone of an episode. The title is Why Might Tyree Nichols Have Run? Too Many Brothers Know Why. And it's about the abuse that can happen. And it's not about white officers or Black officers, as we know. Anyway, I just want to take this time to thank all of you for your listening because it allowed 365 Brothers to be recognized by the Webbies. And so we are a 2023 Webby honoree for that episode. So go to 365brothers.com and just check out that episode if you haven't listened to it. It scored really well. We didn't make it to a nominee. There are 5 nominees that you can vote for best episode in a podcast, but our best that is a Webby honoree for best podcast episode feature.
Awesome.
Yeah, I'm very excited. So thank you, listeners, for getting us on the map so that we can even be seen. And for guests like yourself, Mark, it's your stories that power this. Which brings me to our signature question, which is, if the United States was a woman, what would you say to her?
Woo. Oh man, that's a good question. I would say being a man, a Black man, is complex. One size doesn't fit all. And I know we live in a society where it's easy to generalize, but we all are different in, different walks of life, sometimes different ideologies. But there's so much to us within. And so I would encourage her to get to know us, get to know me, see me, value me. But I think even before we get to the point of valuing me, I think you would even value me if you took the time to see me and get the time to know me. Knowing me, and when I say me, I'm referring to Black men in America. You get to see and get to hear about the pain that we've experienced over time. But you also get to hear the joy, the laughter, the excitement. You get to hear the dreams that we have that sometimes we are not comfortable sharing. You get to hear the aspirations. But many times you don't take the time to get to know me. You don't get to know us. So take the time to get to know us. Take the time to see us.
I love it. I love that. What is a moment that exemplifies love for you? And you've shared many already, by the way, so many, but what's one that, you go like that moment, that's love?
I think the immediate thing comes to mind, and maybe this is typical. I don't know, but I think I'm going to share it anyway. For me, the birth of my son and holding him for the first time and holding him and watching him in my arms. And I'm talking to him when I'm holding him for the first time. And I'm expressing to him that he was born for a purpose, that God has something special for him and God has special purpose for him. But that was a moment and a feeling of unconditional love that I've been able to live out, because my son he's himself. He's not me. You know, and I'm not on a mission of trying to make him another me. I want him to be the best version of himself and what he has to offer this world, because I know it's beautiful. But in that moment was it's like time didn't exist. Nothing mattered but that particular moment. To be able to love someone with all you have, you know, all that you are in that moment in time. I know you asked the question, when did I feel it?
No,
But it was when I was able to hold him, when I was able to first lay eyes on him and to touch him. It's nothing like it. It's nothing like it.
All right. The last question is, what's something that you've learned either from your life experience, your profession, that you think other people should know? I used to ask specifically Black men, but if it applies to Black men, it applies to all of us. What's something that you've learned you wish more people knew?
I think and it sounds general, and I think we're at a point in life now where I think there are a lot of buzzwords out there where people are talking about their purpose. But I really want to emphasize that, because I can tell you firsthand that my purpose has really brought clarity to my life and direction. I want everyone to know, male, female, it doesn't matter. I want everyone to know that they were born for a purpose in life, something that's just bigger than them, that they are able to do, that, you know, they've been blessed with tools, with gifts, with talent that only they possess, and they are needed to provide that to what we know and call Earth, to this world. And it doesn't have to be on a larger scale to the entire world. Their world could represent their community. Their world can represent their household. Their world could represent whatever their sphere of influence is. That's their world. Those are the people that they are in constant community with and contact with. And you've been blessed to be in that space, and you've been called to make that space better. That's a purpose that we all have. And I want everyone to really know and understand that. You know, my mom told me the story that, you know, I was born premature. I was born a month early. And the doctors had expressed to my mother that I only had a few weeks to live, because I only weighed, I was so little, I was so tiny. The doctors basically told her there's no hope. And I think, again, that's another reason why I resonate with the Rocky stories, because I would, again, being the underdog, but it was because of purpose that allowed me to move forward and live life. It's been because of purpose that allowed me to experience life in ways that I had never imagined, that I would have never dreamed of. And truthfully, I want that same feeling for everybody. I want people to wake up with that sense of joy, that sense of knowing that I can contribute to life today. My life has meaning. And that's something that I just want to share with people, that their life has meaning.
I always share at the end my impressions of, like there's usually a word or two that stands out. And it was so funny because I was like, nope, it's not like a few words, it's a statement. And that statement, you actually said it practically. I mean, the statement that you represent for me is, I am a gift from God to the planet to make a difference.
Yes.
And so are you. Like
Yes.
that statement is,
Yes.
that's you, Mark.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
And thank you, because I think as an educator I can have a tendency of rambling, but you summed it up perfectly in just that statement alone. So thank you, and for you to be able to sum it up. And I just want to say to you, thank you for listening. Thank you for hearing. I think a lot of people do talking, but you heard me. It wasn't just about the words that I expressed. No, you heard me. And I think this is what your podcast, this is what it does. You have created a medium, you've created a space to where you hear people. You allow people to voice, you allow people to express, but you've also created a scenario to hear people. And I'm telling you, these are the things that change lives. So thank you.
Thank you. Like, it means the world to me that you got that and that you felt heard. That I'm controlling myself, but like it just really means the world to me that you felt heard, because I do think that that's one of the gifts that all of us can contribute. Anyway, so my last question for you, Mark, is, now that you and I have had this amazing conversation that's left me all warm and fuzzy, but also informed and inspired and changed as both an educator and a person, but for yourself, what did you get personally out of having this conversation?
Having this opportunity, you've allowed me to reflect. You've allowed me to cry. I didn't anticipate sharing that emotion, but you gave me space to share my emotion, to share my voice. You also given me a space to resonate with your experiences as well. To be able to hear some things that connected with you, and basically to be able to begin formulating a relationship, a community. That's what you've done for me by allowing me this space and this opportunity. You've allowed me to exercise my voice. And so, again, I just want to say thank you. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for your spirit. Just thank you for the wonderful work that you are doing, and that you will continue to do. This is the thing that changed lives.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for listening to 365 Brothers. Certainly hope you enjoyed the episode. I encourage you to subscribe. Please leave a review. I want to know what you think. Also, if you know someone who would be a fantastic guest for 365 Brothers, please direct them to our website, 365brothers.com. You'll also find all the episodes there, 365brothers.com, and your support is welcome. And remember, to listen is to love.